What is the highest and best use of your time? And if you're not holding a really high bar on that, those hours just get frittered away and they get eaten up by things that someone else could handle. There are things in your life and in your work that genuinely require you, your specific, unique perspective, your experience, your relationships. I am constantly striving to get more of my time aligned with what I am uniquely qualified to do. You are the reason that they get to do the work that they're skilled at, work that they might actually enjoy or be good at in ways that you aren't, and they get paid for it, right? So you letting go, you like selfishly investing in yourself is actually creating somebody else's income. This is episode 448 of the Brilliant Balance podcast. What happens when you stop doing everything yourself? So I'm going to start this episode by telling on myself, I guess, because when I started my company 15 years ago now, actually 16 years ago now, I did everything myself. I mean everything, right? I wrote content that was going out in my little blog. I built the first version of the website. I answered every single email. I managed the finances. I scheduled my own calls without like an online scheduler, right? I followed up on invoices. I did everything. And I told myself a very convincing story about why that was a great idea. Right? It wasn't just necessary. It was smart. Like, look how smart I was, right? And I think my narrative was like, I'm saving all of that revenue. I'm increasing profitability by doing everything myself, right? If I keep all this work in-house, then I keep it all. And also, by the way, I'm the only one who really knows how to do this the way it needs to be done. It's just easier if I just handle it. Sound familiar? I think this is a story we tell ourselves, but here's the thing about that story. It's not entirely wrong. In the very early days of building something, like building a company, you often do have to wear every hat, kind of be in every role. There isn't always a budget, especially if you're bootstrapping your company, to hire a team. And there isn't always enough of a volume of work to really justify help, especially full-time help. And I think a lot of first-time entrepreneurs get into a paradigm where they think they can only hire full-time employees, right? And honestly, doing everything yourself in the beginning teaches you a lot. Like, you learn what's hard. You learn what takes longer than you thought, which is most things. I think you learn what the work actually requires, how the company actually functions, because you built it sort of brick by brick. And that's valuable for a while. But here's where it goes sideways. The story that made so much sense, like in the beginning, I have to do this myself. I'm the best person equipped to do it. I'm being so responsible. That has a way of following us around long after it stops being true. And it doesn't only happen to entrepreneurs. Long after there is a budget and there is volume and there is justification for growing the team, long after there maybe even are already people around us who could absolutely take things off our plate, that story that we told ourselves at the beginning becomes a habit. And the habit morphs into an identity. And that identity kind of traps us, right? At the level that we are. I ran on that story deep into my business, right? I already had a team sort of forming around me, and I knew there was more work than I could possibly handle alone, not to mention the 10,000 ideas that were constantly forming in my mind. I'm deeply a visionary, and so I have like an idea a minute. And I was still in that story when something finally shifted my thinking. And it was actually a memory that came back to me that was the thing that finally made the shift. And I started thinking about this man named A.G. Lafley. So A.G. Lafley was the CEO of Procter & Gamble for a number of the years that I worked there. I spent the first 15 years of my career there. And we worshiped him, right? He was the CEO. He was always trotted out on stage. He was this kind of white-haired, dashing figure. And he was running this company that had, I don't know, 100,000 employees globally, like big, massive company, global operations, billions and billions of dollars of revenue, brands that were touching like virtually every household in the world. Like if you don't know, P&G manufactures and distributes Tide, Pampers, Gillette, Crest, Bounty, Charmin, like the list goes on and on. There are so many household brands that you might not even know all are made by this one company. The breadth of what was going on in that organization on any given day was staggering. If you really stepped back from my vantage point and thought about how that multiplied across all the brands and around the world and across the functions, like the complexity was astonishing, really, right? And I think that's true in any large global brand. And here's what I kept turning over in my mind. A.G. Lafley had no idea what I was doing on any given day. He had no idea what the vast majority of people were doing on any given day, right? He didn't know the logistics coordinator in Cincinnati or the brand assistant in Geneva or the research team in Singapore. Like he didn't know. He couldn't possibly know. He certainly wasn't doing it for them, right? And yet all of them were doing work that laddered up to the objectives that he was committed to Wall Street for delivering, right? He was the one sitting on CNBC saying, I am going to deliver this quarterly earnings, right? He had to have everyone moving in the same direction. Everybody had to be getting results that ultimately landed on his desk as wins, right? He wasn't doing the work. He was getting results through the rest of us. And like, here I was in this little company, answering my own emails, scheduling my own calls, convinced that I couldn't hand off any little tiny thing to anyone. So this gap between where I was and where somebody like A.G. Lafley wasn't a gap in talent per se. Okay, I'm not going to argue that I'm as talented. He's probably far more talented, right? It's not really a gap in talent, though. It's not a gap in intelligence. It's not a gap in capability or work ethic for sure. It's a gap in this one specific skill, the ability to get results through other people. And once I saw it that way, I couldn't unsee it, right? Once I understood that this was a learnable skill, not just something that happened automatically when you like got to a certain level, right? You practiced it on your way up, everything changed. Now, I had done it at a level when I was working in that company, right? And I'm not suggesting that you need to aspire to run a Fortune 500 company to need to learn this skill. Most of us don't want that life. That's a pretty rare, or it's a rare goal and an even more rare accomplishment. But the principle scales all the way down. Whether you're leading a team of 20 people or a team of 3 or a household of 4, right? That skill of knowing how to get results through others is the thing that determines how far your impact can reach. And honestly, I think it determines how sustainable your life actually is. Okay, so today what I want to talk about in this episode is what opens up for you when you develop that skill. I don't necessarily want to talk about the reasons you might be resisting it. That's a whole other conversation, and honestly, an important one that we should have separately. But today I really want to look at the upside. What do you gain when you figure out how to let go of some things and get results through other people? Because I think sometimes we're so focused on what it's going to feel like to let go, like the hard part of it, that we forget to look at what we get in return. And there are things that we get in return. There are incredible benefits to really mastering this skill. And I think when you sit with them, the question stops being, can I afford to get results through other people? Like, can I afford to hire somebody or to outsource this or to delegate it? And it starts to become, can I really afford not to, right? Am I limiting my impact by not knowing how to leverage this force multiplier of getting results through other people? Okay, so I'm going to unpack a few of these with you today. We're going to see how they feel. And I'm really trying to kind of put catnip out there for you to be, this might be your motivation for finally letting go of some things that you have been holding on to, maybe well past the point where you really need to. Okay, so the first thing is you get back time. But you don't just get back any time. You get back the right time. You get back highly valuable time. Okay. When you stop doing things that someone else could do, like they have the capability, they have the talent, they have the time, you do get hours back. But what matters is, what do you do with those hours? All right. The point isn't to just fill them with more of the same. The point is to redirect them toward things that only you can do. Only you can do. Or maybe things that you want to do and you just haven't been getting to. Okay. Let me say this again, because I think this is worth really sitting with for a second. There are things in your life and in your work that genuinely require you, your specific, unique perspective, your experience, your relationships, right? Your creativity, your vision, your voice. There are certain things in your world that only you can do, right? Certain judgment calls, maybe certain conversations that only you can have. Nobody else can do those things. Those things need to be you. And I want you to be honest with yourself about these days, right now, how much time are you actually spending on those activities? Because for most of the women that I'm working with in coaching, the honest answer is not enough. And that's honestly I am constantly striving to get more of my time aligned with what I am uniquely qualified to do, and to build the capability in my team and my expanded team of like contractors and agencies where they are able to do it at the level that I expect to be done. Okay. Because otherwise those hours get eaten up, and those hours should be reserved for the highest and best use of who you are. What is the highest and best use of your time? And if you're not holding a really high bar on that, those hours just get frittered away and they get eaten up by things that someone else could handle, right? They get taken by tasks that maybe feel urgent in the moment because they're sitting on a to-do list or a Monday board or an Asana plan, right? But the work that is really like your unique work is sitting undone, right? This happens so regularly to so many people that I work with. I can't even, it's hard for me to dimensionalize how much this is a barrier to growth or to progression for women. I've worked with this woman, I'll call her Sarah, that's not her real name, but she is a senior leader at a growing company. She is brilliant, absolutely brilliant, deeply capable, genuinely. One of the most impressive people I've probably gotten to coach. And when we first started working together, she was spending almost all of her time on work that her team absolutely could have handled, right? Detailed reports, presentations, meetings that she was running because she hadn't really equipped anyone else to do it, emails that she was writing that could have been delegated. And when we really kind of got at a granular level and looked at her time, which I'm able to do, right? With some of our clients, I'm really able to do like a time audit and look at where their time is going. She was genuinely surprised, right? I was surprised, but I kind of expected it because I've seen it so often. But when we looked at just how much of her work week was going to stuff that she had no business doing, it was shocking. She knew she was busy. Like, she came into the conversation being like, yeah, my time is gone. But she hadn't really seen so clearly before how much of that like busyness was sort of optional. Like, it was extraneous. It absolutely was avoidable. And when she started like sort of brick by brick moving work to the right people, she looked at her team and said, okay, this thing that I am routinely doing, who else could do this? And got it into that person's plate. She got time back. And then she used that time to do the stuff she wasn't getting to, which was honestly thinking work, strategy work, relationship building work. Guess what? That was actually her job. Like, she had risen to a level where that's what the company needed from her. That's what she was qualified to do, but she wasn't ever getting to it, right? And so everybody was suffering. I mean, within months, like 6 months to 12 months, I would say the team was stronger. The results were trending up. She's starting to get out of the office on time. She's getting feedback about the ideas that she's bringing to the table. So getting results through others isn't about just necessarily doing less and like going out to the spa, right? It's about doing the right things, the things that you actually feel drawn to do or that you're qualified to do. And I think that translates at work and also at home, right? I think you can listen to this episode through both of those lenses and really see examples in each of those arenas that would be relevant here. So first thing, you get time back to do the most important things. Second thing that happens is you multiply your impact dramatically. Okay. When one person is doing things, you are limited by your time. One person, 1 hour, right? It goes to one thing. So there's like a hard ceiling on what any individual, I don't care how good you are. I don't care how fast you are, what your capacity is like. There's still a ceiling on what you can produce or deliver alone. Okay. Doesn't matter how efficient, you're still one person. Time is finite. At some point you hit a wall. But once you know how to get results through others, that ceiling disappears, right? There's no limit to the upside. Go back to A.G. Lafley, my example from before. His personal impact wasn't limited to what he could personally execute. His impact was like the sum of what everyone in that organization was doing. So it extended through all the people who understood the mission, who had the tools and the training to do their job well. And like everyone was moving in the right direction. So he's one person with a lot of influence and a big vision and some compelling ideas, and great communication systems to work them down through. But that allowed his influence to multiply across those thousands and thousands and thousands of employees, right? So I want to be careful because I don't want this to sound abstract or like it only applies to the largest corporations in the world, right? I want to bring this in a little bit closer. Think about the most effective leader you've ever worked for, right? The person who somehow you're like, I don't know how they get all this done. I am absolutely willing to bet that person didn't do much themselves. There wasn't a lot of executing work in their like daily life. I bet they were clear on what only they can do. I bet they communicated well enough that other people knew how to execute without having to be like micromanaged. And I bet they trusted the people around them to deliver. And because of that, like their reach extends far beyond what they could do by themselves. And you also feel better, right? You thought back on this person as the most effective leader. Now, contrast that with the least effective leader. The one who's constantly in the weeds, who has to approve everything, who is the bottleneck for every decision, right? We call these people micromanagers most of the time. Sometimes they're very well-intentioned, but they can't let the work move through other people. And I bet that person was working incredibly hard, maybe harder than anybody around them. They are putting in the hours, right? They have their nose to the grindstone, but somehow less gets done. Why? Because everything has to flow through one person, and one person can only do so much. So every organization is going to have a bottleneck. And when that bottleneck is the leader, we have a real problem, right? The difference between these two leaders that I just illustrated, that's not an intellect difference. It's not a capability difference. It's really about their ability to get results through others. And this applies to your personal life as much as it applies to a company. Think about things you can outsource that drain you. The tasks that just eat up your time in the day, and they don't really feel meaningful to you at all. And by the way, I'm being careful about examples here because those are so different for each of us. Like something that I love to do and find great pleasure in, like I'll use cooking as an example. I know if I went on and polled every listener today across the thousands and thousands of listeners, many of you would say, oh, that is a task I would happily never do again. Right? I hate to cook. I hate to meal plan, but I love it. So when you outsource the things that drain you, the things that take your time, but they don't like fuel you, then you free up capacity to do the things that really you love to do. Right? So whether it's a capability driver, like, am I uniquely qualified to do this? Or more like like a desire driver? Do I like doing this? Do I get energy out of this? Both of those things are kind of good territories for what could potentially be handed off to other people. And your impact multiplies. If you think about yourself as maybe somebody who doesn't like cooking, if you never had to do that again, if you had given direction to someone else, whether they live with you and they're doing it for free or you're hiring them to do it, like, what does it open up for you? What does it allow you to go do with that time and energy? That's kind of the whole game here. Okay. The third thing that you get from learning how to get results through others, and I really love this one, is other people win. Other people win. I think a lot of the time we frame delegation and outsourcing as something we do for ourselves. Like it feels selfish or indulgent somehow. But there's a generosity in this that I don't think we talk about enough, right? When you delegate meaningful work to someone on your team, right, you give them something valuable, which is the chance to grow. Now, I'm not trying to make this like put a big pink bubble around it and turn it into something it's not. I genuinely believe that. When I think about my early career at Procter & Gamble, then when I had a leader who would give me the chance to do something that I hadn't done before and they had done 1,000 times, right? I got to stretch into something new. I really honestly felt like honored by that. I felt really grateful and excited to get in there and try something that I hadn't gotten to do. And they were probably bored with it by then. They had done it 1,000 times. Were they better at it than I was? Probably, right? Probably. But how am I ever going to learn? How am I ever going to get better and build confidence and build capability if I'm not given a chance to try? So again, we think about it through the lens of like, oh, I'm inconveniencing them and I'm making somebody do work and I'm piling this on them. But especially when it's something that's like a stretching opportunity for them to kind of get a seat at the bigger table, to do something that they haven't done before, maybe something that has visibility or prestige, that is actually an act of generosity. And I see it all the time where a leader holds on to a project because either she thinks she's the only one who can do it justice, or she's trying to protect her team from having more work to do. But when she keeps it, she's also keeping that team from building the capability, from building the skill, right? So she might be protecting quality in the short term, like I would do this better, but she's stunting growth in the long term, both theirs and hers, honestly, right? So I want you to think about the things that you've been holding on to. They might be the very things that would develop the people around you. These projects would build their skills, right? The responsibilities can expand their confidence. These are like, they'll rise to the occasion if you let them. And I think that the guilt that we feel about this comes from a number of places. Again, it's probably another whole episode to talk about guilt. Sometimes it's like, oh, I feel guilty that I'm making them spend time, or this is a task I don't like, so now I'm giving it to somebody else. I'm sort of like passing on the stuff I don't like. But especially when you're outsourcing, like I just was talking about delegation in those examples with a team member. But when you hire someone to do the work that you don't want to do or you don't have time to do, you're actually providing their livelihood, right? You are the reason that they get to do the work that they're skilled at, work that they might actually enjoy or be good at in ways that you aren't, and they get paid for it. Right? So you letting go, you like selfishly investing in yourself is actually creating somebody else's income. Right? I think that's so important. I mean, this is like economics 101. Okay. But that's not weakness. It's a form of generosity, or it's at a minimum, it's kind of just an economic reality that I look at things in my life that I can't get to or don't want to get to. And when I pay someone else to do it, they go home and they turn that into their own household economy, right? That becomes their household income that they can use for whatever they want. And they can outsource the things that they don't want to do. So I think it's really important that we look at both sides of that equation. Who's winning? If we think that we're like winning too much and it's somehow making us feel selfish, this is an important reframe. And I have one more for you today. The fourth thing, and this might be the one that I want you to like think about the most after we close today's episode, is who you become. Who you become when you learn to get these results for others. When you are no longer doing everything yourself, something shifts, right? There's something that changes in you when you learn to do this. Because I think when we're in that stage where we're like white knuckling every outcome, right? Just like put it all in my bare hands and I'll handle it. And when we stop doing that and we stop hovering over people when they're doing every task and keeping every piece of, every moving part of things in our heads, you get to find out who you are underneath all of that doing. And for a lot of us, that's a person that we may not have spent much time with lately, because that overdoing, right? That kind of that gear that we're in, where we're doing not only our work, but everybody else's, we're trying to pick it all up and handle it. That causes maybe like behaviors in us that we're not always proud of, right? When I have too much to do, when I am on the edge of overwhelm or I'm in overwhelm, I am critical. I am short-tempered, right? I'm snappish in my household and at work. And it's not great. I'm not proud of that, but I know that it's rooted in, it's almost like a signal to me now of you are trying to do too much. The person who's learned how to really do this, how to like run an organization at home or at work where everybody is contributing, that person is less reactive. They are more thoughtful. They have an ability to think not in crisis. They have energy left over that they can like pour into people. There's space for ideas that aren't just about the next immediate problem, right? I see it in the women I'm coaching, like they laugh more easily, right? They're more curious, they're more creative. It's like a flower that blooms, because this person is actually more powerful and she knows it. Not because she's like, it's not, oh, well, she's powerful because she's doing less. Like that is actually the correlation. It's by doing less and allowing other people to do more and orchestrating those results, it actually does make that person more powerful. And there is a version of you that will know this when you have done it. When you have done this kind of hard work of figuring out what is it that only you can do, right? What is the part of your business? What is the part of your job? What is the part of your household that you really are genuinely the best person to do? No one else has the skill or whatever. And then that's where you center your time and you let go of a lot of this other stuff. And it either doesn't get done at all, or you figure out how to get those results through other people, right? And there's systems in place and there's good direction being provided. And, there's a relationship that is strengthening. That is a more powerful person. And that's who you're becoming when you learn how to do this, right? This is like leadership in a nutshell. And so the barriers to doing it are real. And I mentioned those earlier. Like there are real barriers to, I'm not sure I'm going to say there are real barriers. There are definitely emotional barriers to learning to do this. And we're going to have to sit with those and figure out how to get you over the hump if you're going to really move into this space. So I want you to maybe check in with yourself and ask, like, what is the source of my resistance to this? When I am not delegating, when I am not outsourcing, when I am taking everything back myself and trying to do it with my two hands, like what's really going on underneath that? What are you doing that someone else could do that you're still holding on to? And what might you do with the time and the energy and the headspace that you get back? If you can learn to do this well, what does it open up for you? Right? What are you not getting to today that you actually would be excited about doing? Because the answer to that question is where your real work lives. It's the contribution that only you can make. I know there is something on your list where you are saying, if I could just figure out how to not do this anymore, I would have time to get to this thing that I can't get to. And I really want you to have that experience. Okay? It's too important to skip past this. The impact that you can have it's too valuable. Now, I want to tell you about what is happening in June, where I would be happy to help you. And that is the masterclass that I am teaching in June. And the topic is getting results through others. Okay. And I designed it specifically because I know how valuable this skill is. And I also see that this is one of the most underdeveloped skills among the women who I'm working with. So what we're going to do in that class is we're going to start with the mindset piece, because honestly, that is where most of us get stuck, right? The belief system that's underneath. Why do we hold on? Why are we not asking? Why are we uncomfortable watching someone else do the things we used to do? We're going to really get clear about those beliefs, and then we're going to get very practical. And we are going to talk about how to delegate well, because it isn't just something you do, right? It's not just hand something off and hope for the best, but it's how to communicate clearly enough that the work actually comes back to you the way you want it. How do you set expectations without micromanaging? Because we all hate that. How to build trust over time, right? We're going to talk about outsourcing, which is different than delegating, right? Outsourcing is when I'm going to pay someone to do something that I used to do myself. So we're going to look at how do you figure out what to outsource, how to find the right people. And then we're going to really ladder this up to leadership at a bigger scale, right? So really understand, for those of you who are leading teams, whether that's at work, in your organization, or in your community, how to build the kind of environment where people can do their very best work without you being in the middle of everything. This really is the kind of skill that will pay dividends in every area of your life. So the masterclass in June is on this topic. And you can get your ticket to that masterclass by being a part of the coaching circle. And that is, the link for that is below. It's always at brilliant-balance.com/coaching circle. So that's how you get into this class. And then we are going to do this deep, practical, transformational work together in there, right? I'm going to teach, and then we're going to do a coaching call. And June is going to be a particularly powerful month with this topic on deck. Okay. So check it out. The link to get there is below. If you want some help and support in learning this skill and figuring out how to apply it in your life, I got you. And I'm excited to do this with you in June. So until next week, that's all for today, my friends. Till next time, let's be brilliant.